My name is Olga Middleton. I am not a cousin of Kate Middleton. I get that question very often, so just so you know, I wish. I'm Director of Business Development for emerging market, which in our case it's Latin Americas, Eastern Europe, Russia, Africa and Middle East. Very different challenges, but I think across those regions still some similarities. I'm working very closely with sales. However, I have an independent view, and my role is mainly to advise sales and to make sure that we're going to the right direction and that we strategize well and that we also hearing other views, because sometimes it's just easy to run. I wanted to thank INASP for an invitation, but also this morning's speakers. I think for Joel and Sophia to give us this yet another wake-up call and get another perspective that's very, very valuable, and I've learned already quite a lot. And I hope it will start good discussions. What I'm going to talk today about is research for life, and not only the best practices and how great we are, but mainly what challenges Elsevier, but I'm sure that all the other publishers facing to get to the next level when country is really reaching the level when we can introduce broader perspective. However, you know, this morning all the questions about pricing and general consortiums, they all connected together. So I'm not going to speak too much about Research for Life. I guess everybody in the room is pretty well aware of that program. But just to give you an idea that Elsevier is a founding and driving partner. We provide very big portion of the content, and not only journals, but also Scopus and Mendeley, very good platforms which provide the cooperation and collaboration perspectives, not just the content itself, which is, I was hearing this morning, which is getting more and more important nowadays, where there's so much information and we don't know how to look for them and how to actually use them. So I think that should go together. I'll go to this straight away. As we know, in one moment or the other, country reach from the research output perspective or the next level ambition, reach the point that they want to voluntarily or slightly involuntarily step out from Research for Life and explore different level of engagement with the publisher. How we, and I put this from the Elsevier perspective, but I'm sure that that other publishers recognize this as well. That's ambition on how we want to, and how we do this at the moment, look at those countries and assess, are they ready for that, and how we can help them. So we mainly look at the beginning on the output analysis, and it was quite interesting this morning when Joel mentioned, yeah, don't look at our GERD, don't look at our GDP, don't look at our expenses, because not all goes to the education, not goes all to the higher education. And indeed, that's a complex procedure to assess the country, not only by numbers, but also the research ambition, the output analysis, to make sure that this is really the country which is ready for the next step. You know, I'm not saying that it's always happened and it's always very successful, but that's the first step we're taking. Now, there is another point which is very important. From the publisher perspective, if we're negotiating with the bodies separately with the institutes, that's always a challenge for the institute, for the country, but also for us. It's so much better when we negotiate with one strong body. Despite what you might think, it's actually better if people know what they want exactly and what they want from us. Like Sophia mentioned, I want these titles, I don't want that titles, and that's great if the customer really knows what they want. That actually helps us more. It's challenging for us, but in the long run, it helps us and it helps the customer. Pricing, that's always the challenge, the biggest challenge, I think. It's hard when country is paying obviously small amounts. And just by the way, just to mention that when we take countries out of Research for Life, we're only taking them up to 4 categories out. The rest of the main supporting, like agriculture and so on, is still staying. So as Elsevier, we're still within those countries. Even then, we take universities out, we still support a big portion of other initiatives. So when we're talking about the taking country out of Research for Life, we're not talking about all of those categories, because that's not a point of Research for Life. Where's the next step? And like I mentioned to you already before, it is important and it is a very big focus for us to make sure that especially developing countries understand also and learn how they can use our content, how they can search things in order to find the relevant information. So this is what we are focused on when the country gets to another level. We also focus on additional training and our author workshops, because just making sure that people know how to use our content make us successful, make customers successful, and that's when in the longer run we can see the benefits for both sides. There is one more thing which is important. There is a lot of, on a country level, there is a lot of very interesting high level and high quality journals in the countries. What we notice over the last few years that they don't have international collaboration. They don't have enough international visibility. So together with our publishing department, we introduced the production and hosting services, which are just promoting those journals, and you can publish on the Elsevier platform and use the Elsevier platform to become visible internationally. Because we see that for all the countries, but especially developing countries, international collaboration is really important and really crucial. Now, I mentioned that we're trying to, obviously when a country is taken out of Research for Life, we're trying to make sure, and this is our promise also to corporate responsibility. I'm looking at Ilan here. She's my guide on that, to make sure that there is no access gaps for a way too long time. That's the main ambition. Sometimes we provide free trials to mitigate this effect if the negotiations take too long, because we want to make sure that the research community is not hurting. We're trying to also work really closely with consortia, because sometimes it does happen. I think it happened last year, and INASP helped us to understand quickly that the consortia which are showing themselves from the country and the real need is sometimes not there. So it's really, really important to map that. I mentioned about pricing. Like I said, I think it's still a challenge for the whole industry, not only for Elsevier. And I think that would be a good panel to discuss that. The start point was this morning. And make sure that we put a lot of attention in the research capacity building, because that's what makes country very visible on the worldwide map. Now, challenges. Like I said, it's all ambition, and we're really, really trying very hard, but there's also challenges in that, what we're doing. What happens when there is access gaps? There are the cases like that, and what we do internally, there is a definite, very quick push from, like I said, corporate responsibility, but also from myself, to make sure that this is straight away attended. Because it's very easy to miss that. We're doing our best, but if these things happen, we have way of working with this internally. The consortia, I mentioned this before, there is a lot of times that we need to really a bit of more guidance on that, but also there are sometimes the moment where consortia starts to be challenged with the financial situation. And then we try to bring to the table whenever we can, other parties, to support that, because obviously not only 1-year deal is important, but also sustainability of what you're buying. That's really, really important, and I think it's coming across all the presentations this morning. There's also happening that there's obviously political upheaval, and in these cases, but also not only in these cases, there are the issues there are the instances that we decided to reintroduce country to Research for Life. Both decisions to take country outside of Research for Life and reintroduce, they're really well thought through. They're really well analyzed. That doesn't happen. We really like to avoid the cases that the country is still not ready. That it's not good for a country, but it's also not good for any publisher working in this country. So I think that's, but if this instance happened, there was a few years ago that we really introduced whole country back. There was few weeks ago we introduced some of the institutions in the country, because it's just not going to work otherwise. And this is, I would say, failure, and something that we should work towards, and we should really ongoingly challenge ourselves to make sure that, you know, there is both interests in mind when we are doing this. So I was really speeding. I had like 7 minutes, I thought, and now I spoke 15. So that's it from my side, and I guess there will be a moment for questions.
There are indeed. Thank you. That's perfect.
Thank you.